Okay, now let's talk about types of rivers. And there are two basic fluvial types or two basic river types. The first one is braided streams or braided rivers, and the second one is called meandering streams or meandering rivers. All right, for braided streams, it consists of multiple channels that are typically intertwined with each other. As you can see here in this picture right here, it consists of many channels that are going this way and they are branching out and branching in. And all those channels are basically intertwined with each other, right? And that's what characterizes braided streams or braided rivers. So basically, it is a stream that consists of a network of smaller channels, and they are typically separated by temporary islands called the sandbars. And these sandbars are represented again by these isolated islands that you see here in the middle of those channels, in between those channels. And braided streams or braided rivers, they form typically when the river has a very high sediment load or coarse sediments that allow these sandbars that you see here to develop. The second one, so that was the first one, and for the second one is called meandering rivers. Meandering rivers are found in low-lying flat areas, all right, and these low-lying flat areas are typically called floodplains, as illustrated by these areas right here that I'm highlighting, okay? Right here, this could be part of the floodplains of this channel right there, and it's very easy to identify meandering rivers because it has a very distinct shape. It has a very distinct S-shaped curves, so it is a very it's a very curvy channel, and unlike braided streams, meandering river typically consists only of a single channel that has a very curvy shape. Okay, so here is another illustration of a meandering river. As you can see here, it's very easy because it looks like, I mean, to me it looks like a snake going side to side like that. And then another thing, again, as I mentioned earlier, that we have a floodplain, and floodplain here in this illustration is illustrated by those areas in between the red lines that I'm drawing right now. There you go. So every single part of it, this one is called floodplain. So again, floodplains are again low-lying flat areas that surround the main channel of meandering river, and again, these areas are the ones that will get flooded during, say, storms or during any types of events that cause, a anomalously high amount of water. Okay, so again, as you can imagine here, this will be the dry days right here, the dry normal days, and this will be during floods maybe, okay? Maybe during storms. Some anatomy of meandering rivers that I need to mention here include cut banks and point bars, and we already talked about flat plains a little bit. Um, so you need to be able to differentiate between point bars and cut bank at least, and identify which one is the flat plane. So for example, in this picture right here, we have the channel, of course, going this way, okay, and it has one turn right here. This is the first turn, and here we have the second curve right here going that way, and then the third one or the last one going this way, right? So we have those curves right there, and it looks like this is a meandering river because it has a single channel and it's very curvy. And point bars are areas along the river that develop in the inner side of a curve. Okay, so for example, this will be the first curve right here. So in the inner side of that curve, we will have a point bar. A point bar is a location where sediments accumulate. Okay, and that is the reason why you see lots of sand or maybe mud being deposited here in point bar. Okay, So as you can imagine, we have the first turn right here. In the inner side, we have a point bar, and we have another turn right here. In the inner side, we have another point bar. Here on the third one right here, in the inner side of it, we have another point bar. So point bars are always located in the inner side of those curves. What about in the outer side? The outer side will be called cut banks. So these will be the cut banks right here. And here's another cut bang in the outer side of that curve, and here I have another cut bang right there in the outer side of the curve. Okay, so again, point bar is in the inner side of it, and the opposite side of the channel we will have cut bangs. And there's a reason why cut bangs and point bars form, and I'll talk about that in the next few slides. But here's again another example of a point bar right here. So we have the channel going this way, and again in the inner side of it we have lots of sediments that accumulate representing the point bar, and in the opposite side we have the cut bank. So the formation of cut banks and point bars along meandering rivers, it actually has a lot to do with the velocity of the water. So we have water flowing right here, and in fact, the highest velocity, or the water that flows most rapidly, will be right in the center part of that of the river. Okay, that's true if we are dealing with a very straight rivers. However, when we have bends along the river, or when we have curves along the river, it will actually deflect that the maximum velocity within the body of the river. So in this case, for example, let's take a look at this image right here. So if we have the turn going this way, right? So we have the first curve right here. As you can imagine here, the blue line actually represents the maximum velocity of the water, and right at that curve the maximum velocity is actually located in the outer side of the river. Okay, so and that is the reason why there's a lot of erosions occurring right there in the outer side of the curve. And again, that is the reason why we call it cut bank, because there's a lot of cutting going on in that direction. Okay, whereas the opposite happened here in the inner side of the curve. In the inner side of the curve, guess what? This will be the location where we have the lowest velocity, okay, or the minimum velocity, which is located in the inner side of the curve. And that is the reason why this area right here in the inner side of the curve allows lots of sediments to be accumulated. Okay, so and that is the reason why we have point bars consisting of mud, consisting of sand or gravels. Okay, and again, that's all. It has a lot to do with the velocity of the water, as illustrated by this picture as well. Okay, so because we have cut bang right here, and the maximum velocity is actually in the outer side of the curve, so therefore we have the maximum erosions in this area right here. So therefore the curve will start to evolve, and excuse me, the curve will start to form and going in the outer side, towards the outer side of that curve. Okay, so here we have another maximum erosion right here. So therefore, the river will start to evolve in this direction. Okay, and this maximum erosions, the changes of shape of the meandering river can become so intense, and it could create an acute shape that looks like a very very tight curve of channel right there. And eventually, if it gets too close, these two channels can actually just connect with each other, abandoning this side of the river. And that's when oxbow lakes start to develop. Okay, so here's an example of an oxbow lake right here. It is actually an abandoned channel because of a cutoff process of the meandering channel. All right, here is an illustration of how meandering rivers evolve through time. Meandering stream flowing from top of screen to bottom, as illustrated by these areas right here. The green areas indicate maximum depositions, where we have point bars forming. Lots of sediment accumulation and deposition occurs along those green areas, and we have maximum erosions happening on the outer side of the curve right there. Okay, so therefore, in the future, the meandering river will start to evolve this way, and will start to evolve this way for that curve, and this way for that curve. Okay, we can see here the line represents the maximum velocity of the water, and because of that, again, that could be something that a meandering river start to form right there, and then if it gets too close, kaboom, it will cut off. Let's start from there. So this side of the river gets too close with that side of the river, and eventually it can actually just flow straight without going through its original paths, abandoning this side of the river, which creates something that we call as an oxbow lake right here. So here is a good example of how oxbow lake forms, and we have an oxbow cutoff right here. Here is a real example of point bars and cut banks and oxbow lake as well. As you can see here, it's a point bar right here. We have the channel going this way. In the inner side, we always have a point bar. In the outer side, we always have the cut bank. And then here is an oxbow lake right here. So the water used to flow this way, all right, like that maybe, okay, but maybe this turns right here got too close, so therefore the channel decided to just cut off the path and abandoning this side of the river, creating an oxbow lake. Here's also a good example of oxbow lake along Mississippi rivers. Okay, beautiful examples of it. And I think that's it for types of rivers, and I'll see you again in the next video.